Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Burn the Corporate Fiction on this fine Friday afternoon or evening, or depending on where you're watching this from, or if you're watching on the playback. Glad to have you. Today, we have a special guest, somebody who wishes to remain anonymous, but has some insights into the final experiment and Duffy's fuckery. Well, actually, more specifically, Lizbeth. I personally don't know what the story is. We've been waiting to share it live, so that should be pretty interesting. Let me say hi to a few of you in the chat that we have in here already. We've got Mojo Shop, Theo Shen, both fellow jurists. Good to see you guys. Make Stupid People Famous, and Brad and Tasha have made it here already. So as you guys pile in, we're gonna get right into this. So I may not be able to say hi to everybody, but if you watch the playback, just know I'm saying hi. So without further ado, let me bring up my dad, Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. How you doing, Dad?
I'm fantastic. How are y'all doing tonight?
Very, very good. And let's bring up our special guest. We'll call him Enoch. That's the name he chose, or Anonymous, or whatever you choose. But how you doing?
What's going on, everybody? I'm in great spirits. Just ready to discuss the truth.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think pretty much at least everybody that subscribes to this channel, my dad's channel, they know that the final experiment was obviously. I don't even personally. We all differ on how fake it was, right? Whether some people think, oh, well, they went there, but they just faked the footage. Or I don't think they ever even went personally. Not as a group, not collectively. What do you think, Dad?
I think they went. And no, make real quick, make stupid people famous. They didn't confiscate it. It's at our moon base for a refit right now. Okay, so the big station's up there right now. Something Wong is actually making up for time lost on there by working in his folks' restaurant. So it's all good. But no, it was a production. Okay. So a lot of times I bring this up, as you know, Ryan, back up behind my house in California, there is where they filmed part of the movie Tremors.
Yep.
Now that it was the town, the streets are there. Of course, they were just dirt. The streets are there. The buildings were just fronts. Okay. Like you see in these old West movies and shit like that, just a front. There wasn't really a store there. There really wasn't stuff inside. And they had a few camper trailers. All right. So there's a scene where you see Kevin Bacon and the other guy, they go get out of their truck and go into the store. And then the next scene is from inside the store and they're walking in.
Right.
Well, those were filmed at two different times at two completely different locations. The part where they're coming in the door was filmed in a studio someplace in Hollywood, California, whereas where they got out of the truck and went into the store was there right up behind my house.
Right.
And it's not always filmed in sequence either. And there's been some discrepancy of that it shows that between that time where that picture was taken with Duffy and McToon down there in Buenos Aires and them when the final experiment right after it happened, that there had been quite a bit of aging take place, but that's still kind of speculative. So what I'm saying is they filmed, it wasn't necessarily even filmed in order. When they did their live stream, it wasn't live. That was pre-recorded. Okay. That was pre-recorded. They were supposed to call Steve in the UK.
And they couldn't.
And they made up an excuse as to why they didn't. Now, he knew that he was supposed to call Steve in the UK during the live.
He mentioned something about it. Yeah.
Yeah. He even gave a shout out to Steve in the UK. And
so that tells you right there, it was filmed after he had spoken to Steve, but it was obviously unable to talk to him live because.
Right. He couldn't talk to him live. And then his excuse for that was that no, there wasn't a phone available because they were all in use. Okay, that was his first excuse. But then Toon piped up. This was on a live stream. Then Toon piped up and said, "Oh, and didn't you find out that you were blocked?" And Duffy just seamlessly went right into it and said, "Yeah, I tried to call and I was blocked."
Well rehearsed.
You just said that there was no phone available, but now you tried to call and you were blocked. And how would you know if you're calling a number that you're blocked from? It doesn't come on and say you're blocked.
Right.
It doesn't. So It's like, what the fuck? This guy just lies about every damn thing, man.
Yep.
It's everything. True. So
I can say that at some point in time, Jaron did go to Antarctica. Okay, these people did go there. They didn't see a 24-hour sun. But some of the footage, like I verified where Jaron was walking in that camp from an aerial view of the camp. I mean, I could actually tell where he was at looking at the photograph and then looking at the surroundings from his chest camp. So there was portions that were filmed on location. I believe there was on location and at different locations, and there was studio work.
I think they probably took, old. I don't think I don't know. It's tough to say. They definitely didn't film 4-hour sun. That's for sure. So, Enoch, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you came to know what the Earth really is, and just tell us about yourself and your story.
For sure. So I would say the main thing that is unique about me is that as I was learning the lies that we all know, or that we were all taught in school, I was also debunking the lies. Like, it's crazy. So I've been what you could call a truther since I was like 11 and 12 years old. I found out about the flat earth while I was in high school, right? And I I'm piecing together certain things today because of people like BTC for short. That's what I call you if you don't mind. And Mr. Sovereign here.
No, I don't mind.
But there's a lot of speculation in flat Earth, and there's a lot of controlled opposition. So today I would like to share my story and how I feel like they create these actors, and I watched an actor be created. That's the summary of what I'm going to explain today. Is one of these actors, I saw them being created, and you have to have discernment in the truth community, especially nowadays, because it's not as black and white as it seems, man. It's really not. There's a lot of deception.
Shit.
Yeah, man.
Sorry.
Yeah,
That is true. Absolutely. There's
that's
not.
the
There's
thing.
yeah.
It's
Not black and
it's
white.
the perception. It's a perception deception.
Right.
And what it is that you got to think about this as a young individual. You were probably told something like the rest of us were, that you're
Right.
going to be going to school. This is your teacher. She's going to make you smart. She's going to teach you things. So you have to listen to what she says. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already viewing them as an authority.
Mm-hmm.
And they're there to make you smart. Why else would you be there?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, wait a second, I'm already smart. I don't need this. What's the deal? But anyway, you know what I'm saying? So what happens is gradually as you go through this regimented indoctrination behavior, it's basically behavior school for humans. It's like obedience. It's obedience
There's a
school.
lot of parallels to prison. I mean, you ride a bus, you got lunchtime, you got recess, you got, and then
prepares you for prison. 100%. That's what it prepares you for, either the factory or prison, and that's what John D. Rockefeller intended when he took it over. You know what's funny is, like, when I went to unmute to respond to you, the whole stream started glitching up. When you kept trying to comment on one of my last videos, that's how you and I ended up in contact, and YouTube kept wiping out your comment.
You saw that, right?
Well, I didn't see your comment at all. I believe that you were commenting,
right?
But that's
over and over and over. And then, I mean, one time I decided to leave my email out. I kept trying to give you my email. They finally, I guess they let it fly. I don't know, man. But yeah,
I put my email and burn the corporate fiction at Yahoo, and then you're able to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's I'm of the opinion, and I'm not really going to get too much into it in this stream, but generally I study the law. That's what a lot of my subscribers are here for. And what I've started to realize is, because it's all actually just the law ties into his problem, reaction, solution. It's the use of positive and negative polarities against one another or in unison in order to engineer desired results that allows them to basically take control of you through fear and dependency, and then build up a structure of the regulation of your property, right? Once they have you in a state of dependency. But everything that we see, not just the final experiment, but literally everything that we see, if it's in the public eye, if it's not suppressed, and what's funny is their greatest weakness is their greatest strength. Now that they have AI in control of all the algorithms, controlling what people see and stuff like that, right? Is that if something makes it to the forefront to become viral and to become publicly and widely known and discussed, it was intended to be. Exactly. And the AI makes sure that happens. So now you can absolutely be sure that if you're seeing something everywhere, it's not an accident, and all of it is a scripted reality. Every single the stuff we had going on in Colorado, which we might get into later if we get off this topic, and is the stuff that happened in New York, the reason that Trump's able to, do the travel ban, all this stuff, it's all one big play, and you have these playwrights in the background, right? So what I want you to do is tell me, because we're talking about scripted reality, and you say that you watched one of the TFE participants be scripted into existence, and I believe you. And I do, you seem like the guy who has the discernment to be able to to, witness something like that and identify it for what it is. So why don't you go ahead and tell us that story?
Absolutely. Okay, so during the pandemic, there was this app. Some of your viewers may be familiar with it by the name of Clubhouse. Um, that app, a lot of people chose that app because you could talk about politics and what was going on in 2020 without being censored. So that's kind of what the selling point was. Now that the whole thing, the scamdemic, is over with, it's starting to die basically. But when I started to use the app, it was already starting to die because it was late 2022. Um, and it wasn't really an instant thing or anything like that. This took a while to develop. I just was on Clubhouse talking in regular rooms and
It
stuff
would
like
have
that.
to. You couldn't do it quickly. If you want to make an
Exactly.
organic character, it'd have to take
Exactly.
place over,
Right.
a significant period of time in order not to arouse suspicion. Go ahead.
Exactly. So yeah, I would just bounce around different topics. I really wasn't even on there talking flat earth like that. There was a flat earth room here, flat earth room there, nothing crazy like that. Uh, but yeah, in 2022, that's where I was. Now 2023, this is when it began. And I'm sure that's right in unison when Will Duffy started talking about this stuff, interestingly enough. And late 2023, one of my boys, I won't say his name here, I don't know if he wants to be shouted out or anything. He created a official flat earth room. Um, the flat earth room of Clubhouse is by the name of Flat Earth Gang. If you go on Clubhouse, I'm sure they're still there. But I decided to separate myself. Flat Earth Gang, and that is one of the main rooms on Clubhouse that talks flat earth 24/7 just about. And I'll say maybe 2023, like November, December time. That's when this character Lisbeth pops up. That's when this person pops up, and I don't think anything of it. Just a innocent, sweet chick, nothing, regular person, uh, and she's talking flat Earth. It seems like so. We accept her as one of ours. And that's just what it was. This is November, December 2023. We started to build a decorum with her, and now that I look back, I mean, I can't say for sure. I don't want to put this on her 100%, but I don't think she really knew like a 100% flat Earth argument. I kind of speculate that she got her arguments also from one of the people in the room that was more knowledgeable on the topic. So I can't even say that she had a flat Earth argument of her own. Honestly,
Well, what makes you say that?
we would debate people.
Okay.
So you're on an app. You're one of the only flat Earth rooms, and people are coming in there. People when they see the words flat Earth, we would debate people, and you start to see everybody has a different way, a different method of arguing. Um,
Did
and
Tune ever show up on there?
he did, he
Yeah.
did,
Okay. That
Well,
tells
and
me
I
a
there you
lot.
go.
and
Well,
I
he
think.
seems to be the central character
Oh,
linking everybody
we're
together.
gonna get into the characters that popped up after her that she brought in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Um. So yeah, I don't think she had an actual argument of her own because we had Globers coming in. That was the point of the room. Globers coming in there and everybody's chipping in and they have their own style of arguing. She's asking questions to the to the guy who's probably one of the most knowledgeable on the topic most of the time. Okay, so fast forward. Now we're pretty much because it was only like 12, 13 months, until the final fakery experiment. So now fast forward, we start to see
So let me pause you there, and I want to point
yeah,
this out.
yeah.
What's odd to me is so this woman shows up on, and what's the app called? Forgive me, because I
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. Okay, so the Clubhouse app out of nowhere, and according to you, and I believe you, don't see any reason not to. She didn't even really know the flat earth argument all too well. Yet this is one of the people that Will Duffy spent tens of thousands of dollars on to take to Antarctica as a flat earth witness. That right there, that what you just said, combined with the fact that she was chosen, is incredibly suspicious. But go ahead.
And also, I mean, to back it up, go on Will Duffy's channel. She will literally tell you, like during the experiment, she kind of started to play the both sides angle a little bit. Like, oh, we don't know, we just don't know. You've been with us for quite a while, and we've been debating these globers. We should know by now. It shouldn't be a we don't know. So go back and watch the video. She's never gonna take 100% stance, right? That she took with us during the trip. So, okay, we start to see prominent figures in this space start to show up. And I'm going to miss some names because I wasn't there for every single day and every, and it's not like we just had every single figure coming in there. But I was there for the David Weiss thing. And I was like, wow, David Weiss is in our clubhouse room right now talking flat earth. I watch this guy a lot. He came in there a few times, but I know for sure 2 times because I was in there the 2 times. And he came in there and we're just talking flat earth. It's like a flat earth get together. Nothing crazy. He does promote the idea of, and they always leave their mark. They always put a little truth, a little deception. His thing is extra land outside of Antarctica. That's what he wants to promote. That's his signature. So, and I was listening to him, not understanding fully who he was. So that day I was asking him about it. But yeah, it was just like a flat earth meetup, nothing crazy, nothing. But I'm just checking off the list now. I'm showing you guys that, okay, this person popped up and all of a sudden I'm watching people that I never thought I would talk to come in this clubhouse room. Okay, so that was one. We had McToon as well. It was more of like a debate with him. I really wasn't all involved in that. I wasn't interested, but he definitely came through there. I think I don't know. I don't know who else came in there, but I know for sure McToon.
All right, so yeah, there's a lot.
What about? Did you ever see Fight the Flat Earth in there?
Yeah,
I don't think. I don't think
Craig
so.
McNeil.
Well, I don't think he's really part of the in crowd anyway. I think they tried to bring him in, but he's too much of a put. That he's just not a
spaz.
Yeah, he's too emotionally unstable to be part of the operation, I think. So, but they use him obviously.
Yep.
But no, McToon, everywhere there's some bullshit going on with some sort of fighting. I think McToon is a major player in the anti-flat Earth movement. I do.
Absolutely.
I think that man is. I think there's a lot more to him. I think he's. So if you guys have seen my research into the final experiment, it starts to get into some shady connections once you get over into Colorado, which is an Illuminati hub, right? Denver International Airport. Everybody knows they make a big gimmick out of it. It's a selling point for them to be like, we got an underground city and all sorts of stuff over here because reptilians and Illuminati, and they make a big gimmick out of it as a selling point because, truth in plain sight type of stuff. And I'm not advocating for reptilians or not, but they say it. So I'm just pointing that out. And and so you get into and then you got Duffy's mentors, Bob Enyart. Yeah. Bob Enyart is one of these. So there's these types of people that they use, like Rush Limbaugh, kind of, right? Like those types of people where they use them as so far right-wing conservative extremists that it turns people off. Mm-hmm. And they do that intentionally. And they promote these people and put them in this public spotlight where they're so extreme in their right-wing views of doing stuff to abortion clinics and various things like that, where it's like, people are like, okay, look, we're not for that stuff, but that's a little crazy, And
hold up real quick on that point. And it's a little bit, you'll think off topic, but not really. This is crazy. Before I forget, there was a woman that burned up or blew up an abortion clinic in Wyoming. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's the only one in Wyoming. And it was still under construction. It hadn't opened yet. And now the lawyers that are prosecuting her for blowing us, they're trying to make it political. All right, so they're saying no, that she didn't blow up an abortion clinic because it hadn't been opened yet. Okay, it was still under construction. And the people trying to prosecute her said no, it became an abortion clinic the minute they started building it. And I'm like, wait a second, man. That's totally backwards to your argument on the baby. Oh my God.
So and that's the big joke with it. But my point is so Bob Enyart, he's part of this controlled opposition. Like he'll go and dinosaurs are fake, but flat earthers are idiots, right? And the funny thing about him, the interesting thing where it starts to get really, really dark, is he was implicated in the unaliving of John Benet Ramsey, right? So, and there, as much as the FBI was contacted to investigate this guy, this is what makes it suspicious. Anybody can say anything about anybody. Right. Somebody can have a grudge, but these longtime members of his church who were defectors, who would obviously have a grudge, continuously called the FBI, told them to do handwriting analysis of the letter that was left at the scene of John Benet Ramsey with, Bob Enyart and all this. And repeatedly, at a certain point, the FBI never touched it. That's what's suspicious. At a certain point, you're like, okay, these people keep calling us. They're, claim they've got video footage being harassed by police officers and, all sorts of stuff's going on over here. Well, let's just clear this off our docket and get these people out of the way. Let's just go do a little prodding. There was no prodding into Bob Enyart. And despite having child abuse allegations and many other things happening, he kept his prominent position as one of the major radio broadcasters in the Denver area, one of the major conservative radio broadcasters. And so this Denver Bible Church, it's hard to find stuff on it, but when you do, the people describe it as a cult, much like, Roger had described the Agape Fellowship situation, right? So it's never open and well, I'm not going to get into that portion of it right this second, but my point is I think that these people are like, so when they tap crisis actors or they tap various operatives that are just crooked enough to know who they're working for, but not smart enough to actually be a part of the scheme itself, those are the people that are the crisis actors. Those are the people that carry out these low-level intelligence operations as an apparatus of the intelligence community. If people don't think that flat Earth is serious enough for the intelligence agencies to be investing any kind of time or money into it, then you're wrong, because flat Earth unravels everything else. It is the Jenga piece that causes the tower to fall, 100%. If you have a lie that big and that massive, right, and it's carried out, worldwide for such a long period of time, and the people who started it, then what else are they hiding? What is really going on? Why the lie, right? The answer to why the lie wakes people up. It is the ultimate red pill, right? The answer to why the lie is like, oh shit, right? Yep. So with that being said, everything you're describing, it fits with an intelligence asset play. So of course, if I wanted to get an anti-flat earther, right? So say if I was hired and I'm like, so I know the flat earth community, I know, this, and I'm like, okay, so how would I create some sort of controlled opposition plan? What I would do is exactly what you're describing. I'd have them come, I'd have my plant go into some obscure, not well-known application and start making waves. Right. And then I'd move my plant from off. Well, they started in some obscure, thing. They come from this not even well-known, app, and that nobody knows who this is. How could they be a plant, right? So have them come off there, and all of a sudden, for no reason at all, you're not even good at using the flat Earth argument or anything like that. You have these high-level connections, both in the flat Earth community and in the globe community. Right? Think about that, because Dave Weiss, he's not just anybody in the flat Earth community. Everybody knows who Dave Weiss is. I'm not saying Dave Weiss right now. I'm not saying anything about Dave Weiss, but I'm just saying, he's susceptible to be tricked. I mean, do you get where I'm coming from with this, Dad?
Yeah. Well, look, this is the whole thing. The best way to control the opposition is to be the opposition.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is, man. And this is why I'm often wary now of especially nowadays when you've got flat Earth channels with just monstrous amounts of fucking followers, you know, and you know, I'm a little susceptible to that because it's like, you know, I'm looking like, okay, I'll listen to what you got to say, but I'm not going to automatically believe you because of your popularity.
Exactly.
And that's
You know
what they
I'm
counted
saying?
on. Yeah.
And I have to, yeah, that's exactly what they did. That's why they had Jaron go.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Well, that's why they had Witsit go too. And Witsit's an interesting case because I don't think Witsit was, I don't think he was corruptible necessarily, more than to the extent that he was controllable through what he cares about. I think they got to him. I think they threatened him with something. I'll stand by that because I watched this man's his actions, his behavior. I can see he's the only one in the entire community who could make physicists look like idiot. I'm not saying like you couldn't or other people couldn't, but like he destroys them in a way that is just like smoldering heap of you just got fucking smoked is left behind, right?
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah,
he was very good. He knew their model better than they did, right? So who better to take down there and say there's a 24-hour sun? So they're banking, well, they know this past. There was that situation when Witsit's sister went missing for, you know, what was it, like a week or two, right? And then all of a sudden she reappeared. There's just a bunch of suspicious stuff in it. But, you know, anybody who doesn't know about that, just look into it. Many people have done a lot of content on it. And I think they took him down there and they were like, when he actually got ready to go for the trip, or maybe even beforehand, they took him into a room and they were like, listen, here's the situation, right? Is you're right. But, you know, this is what's going on. You're going to say you've seen this. And if you don't say you've seen this, we'll destroy your life, whether it be through his wife, his kid, whatever the case may be.
Well, look, I'm looking at his channel right now. And his last live was 12 days ago. The one before that was 4 weeks ago. And then the one, yeah, so it's been like not a whole lot. And I looked under his videos. His last video that he put up was 3 months ago, and it was talking about Israel. Nothing to do with flat Earth, none of it. One before that, 4 months ago, about a plane crash.
Let me tell you something. If the powers that be tell you to talk about Jews over flat Earth, that tells you how seriously important it is to hide flat Earth.
Absolutely.
You know, like, listen, dude, talk about Israel or something. Don't you know?
Honestly, bro. Yeah, bro. Like, if people found out about this, it's game over. The whole reason that they made this, it's game over on all of that. And yeah, I just honestly, I'm at the point. I think that I don't think there's any hope. I don't think that people are gonna find this out, and I think that they use. I think that they use the flat Earth or the final experiment almost 10 years after the flat Earth became popular to try to slay this for once and for all.
I'm down with that, Godzilla. There was a lot of people got caught up in that shit.
Here, I'm going to put a link in the chat if anybody wants to come up and speak with our anonymous guest.
For sure. I still got more to.
Oh, yeah, let him get on with it. I've been waiting. I want to hear this.
Yeah, continue. Yes. Absolutely. We got off on a tangent.
So now let me give a summary of what I've presented so far and then just kind of wrap this beginning part up. So I'm basically just letting people know that there's actors, and I saw one of them be created through the app called Clubhouse. And I feel like Lisbeth is one of those. And I saw her not have arguments. I saw her asking us for arguments. I developed a personal relationship through the app Clubhouse with this person, thinking that this was an actual, genuine person who wanted to learn.
So how did she get invited, right? But go ahead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's just she might have just downloaded Clubhouse one day,
No, I'm saying invited to the final experiment. I'm reinforcing what you're saying, how she was created. Like, yeah, she's asking for arguments for flat Earth, and she doesn't even know the model. Who is she? She's nobody, and she gets invited on one of the supposedly, which I disagree, most important flat Earth quote unquote experiments in recent history. So go ahead.
So Yeah, go check her out. Go look at Will Duffy's channel and go prove what I'm saying. Like, she's gonna say on those videos, "Oh, we don't know." She says a lot of "we don't know." You know, she's acting like she's teetering the line when she's doing this final experiment thing. But it wasn't that energy when she was with us, right? So, and another thing I want you guys to watch is when she won the raffle. Who did she shout out when she won the raffle? Us. So the whole year, 2023 to 2024, imagine if she never got on
Wait,
Club.
wait, wait, wait. Hold on, back up. So the shout out she gave when she won the trip to Antarctica was you guys
Yes, go
in the
watch
Clubhouse app?
she shouted us out. She
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
have
remember
had
that.
anybody to shout out if, guess what, she didn't come on Clubhouse. So
That's
that's
right.
why
I
I
remember
think
that.
a year
Dude,
prior.
I was like that. I was looking at it, I was like, what the fuck is Clubhouse?
That's interesting.
So
And
Yeah,
now
you
we
you
were
are
know.
looking
definitely,
at
Now
you
the
guys.
dots connect.
did
That's
it remind
I'm
you, did you watch the live stream where he was picking who was gonna go, who won the
yes, I
contest?
watched it. Yeah,
Wasn't that just like the fucking Bachelor or some shit like
the
that?
fakest thing ever. We are.
Swear to God. And the very first guy that got cut was the only guy that he's had experience with solar observations, had all of his cameras and the filters and all the shit that he would need. And he was the first one to fucking go, and they picked Bambi eyelashes over that. I was like, what the fuck is going
Exactly.
on here, man?
You got qualified gentlemen probably going in there. Yeah. And when she won, she shouted us out. Who would she have to shout out if she didn't come on the Clubhouse platform to begin with? What story would she have about herself? So,
That
okay,
is interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to continue to put certain cherries on top. Maybe my argument isn't that well constructed, but I'm going to put the cherry on top through the end of them. So that's the end of the beginning saga. We see David Weiss. We start to see certain prominent figures, stuff like that. So now let's go to, because this was it was a drawn out process, but it was only really like a year. So now the second part is the beginning of the final experiment. And I didn't know that Liz was checking this out at all. But I saw just, bro, this is what really made me subscribe to you because I saw this week. You found the whole Candace Owen things interesting. I found that interesting as well last year before this whole thing took place. What does, and I knew, they have controlled opposition, acting like Republican, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what does Candace Owens want with this? Why is she all of a sudden? This is before the final experiment. That was suspect to me. What does she want with this? Why is she all of a sudden, you know, basically giving a shout out to this whole final experiment? I mean, I watched your stuff. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to get some traction to this or something like that. I don't know, but obviously there's a high chance that's a controlled opposition. Okay, but I start to look at the final experiment. I don't think much about it. I'm not suspect of Will Duffy yet, nothing like that. Um, because, like I said, a lot of this stuff for me was hindsight 2020. Okay, now, uh, Liz, she explains to us she entered into the raffle for the final experiment uh, weeks before she won, and that's not, I'm not saying that's a bad look on her. I'm just letting you know before she won, she told us that she entered into the raffle. And then weeks later, she wins the raffle. And like I said, who does she shout out? Us on Clubhouse. Go look at it. Go watch it. Who does she have? If she doesn't have us, who does she have? That's why I say maybe this actor, they wanted to put her on Clubhouse so she has
So weird.
some
Yeah.
kind of story.
I think you're on it, man. No, I think you're 100% on it with that.
100%.
It's so obscure and random, and that's her only claim to fame. The only way anybody at all in the community knew her. You're 100% on it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So when she does win, that was an eventful day because there was a lot of emotions in our room. Like I was really shocked. I was congratulating her. Like it was crazy. I was really congratulating her because I thought it was, something that it wasn't. Right? Flat earthers can be deceived too, y'all, and that's why I'm here telling y'all, be careful. And I'm gonna say this too. Uh,
No.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course this would happen. Hey, your connection, if you can hear us, your connection is a little shaky. We can't hear you right now.
You dipped out.
Oh man. Yeah. The same way YouTube was deleting his comments. That's what
all
I'm
right,
saying.
man. I just
All
got
right,
a
he's
phone
back. He's
call. I'm
back.
sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. There's me
So
being
yeah,
conspiratorial. Go ahead.
that was an emotional day, man. That was an emotional day because, you know, we didn't understand fully what was going on, and some of them still don't, y'all. Some of them in Flat Earth gang, they still don't understand what really happened. So I'm like, man, Liz, you just won that. You did blah blah blah, this and that. And then there's this whole thing about, oh, and I think Will Duffy did a video on it. I think one of the investors dropped out or something like that. I can't remember exactly what happened. But one of the investors dropped out, and we're like, hold on, Liz, this kind of seems like a scam, though. Something is fishy when that happened. It started to get a little bit fishy right there. So we're like, we start to warn her, like, Liz, you might not want to go, this and that. She's still a little bit optimistic. She was down a little bit, but we're just like, Liz, you might not want to go, whatever. Now, the second time, I told you, David Weiss, we've seen him twice. The second time that we saw David Weiss was in the midst of Liz after she won the trip to Antarctica, after, right? And it's interesting.
So Dave Weiss, after she won the trip, that's when he
After
came
the
in.
trip, warning her also with us not to
So
go.
he was warning. See,
He
yeah,
was
that's why I
warning
didn't.
us.
I actually think Dave is on the level, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's possible. But he was warning her not to go. And actually, he went in detail on how Will Duffy, he's got court cases. And I mean, I'm not so good at this. Maybe if you were there, you'd be able to break it down. He's like, Will Duffy's got court cases and they're making him do this as a payment for his whatever. And this is how they do stuff. He's breaking it down all the way like that. How they use people to, instead of go to jail and get the punishment they deserve, they just turned into a shield, basically. That's basically what he gave us a rundown of.
I think that's true. I think my dad's the first person who proposed that idea to me, and yeah, it makes total sense. Common sense, actually. Like, for instance, he just sent me, not to sidetrack too much, but Ozian, this guy Ozian, he's like, hey, you know Ozian? Like, I've heard of him. Did he pass away? No, he just got caught trying to pick up a 15-year-old. Like, oh, so he ran out of his shill out of jail free cards, huh? So,
Pretty much.
yeah, 100%. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly what it is, bro. And I mean, how else are they gonna find somebody willing to do some of the stuff that they do? Okay, so after all of this commotion, it started to cause division. And I'm like, man, maybe this is the fruit of what they're trying to do with this final experiment, because it really divided some people in the flat earth community, and it started to divide us within the group, because some of us are like, hold on, man, this is a little suspect, man. Even David Weiss came in here and warned us. That's when we really had our, you know, caution signs up when he did that. So I honestly left at that point. That's when I started to fade away from the Flat Earth gang on Clubhouse. And this was probably August, September time. They did the thing in December. So I left at that point because I'm like, I'm not sure who's who here. And I think something is going on, but I can't put my finger on it. And only now am I putting my finger on it. Okay.
So, and just to bookmark what you're saying, is that's generally what happens. Look at every Facebook group that's ever been created for flat earthers,
Yep.
and within a very short period of time, well, a lot of times it was started by a glober in the first place. And then if it was not, within a short period of time, it's so overrun with disinformation agents that people just are like, fuck this, and they go, and I think that at this point, because their model and everything's so weak, that's what they're resorting to. It's just like the other day I seen somebody actually, so not to sidetrack, but I actually went viral. One of my posts went viral on X. I have over 100,000 views on it, and it just shows that there's no planes. on 9/11, right? Well, here's everyone's justification to cope with that. And I've seen the video many times before AI took precedence, right? But the main argument for people to cope is that, well, you can't believe anything you see now because AI. That's what they want. That's what they're doing with these groups, like the group you're talking about, like the Facebook groups, everything. They want to flood it with so many contradicting and alternate, semi-plausible sounding pieces of information that people just don't know what to believe. And so they throw their hands up in the air and they go, you know what, fuck it, I don't care. And, and that's the purpose. I believe that's one of the main purposes of AI, but we're not talking about that right now. So go ahead.
Exactly. No, that's what they want. They want us to look at stuff and not know if it's true and not know whatever they tell us is true. That's what they want us to think is true, as we know. So, yeah, I mean, I pretty much left. So there's a gap in time there from when it actually happened and when she actually won the ticket. But go back, go look at her, shout us out. What argument would she have? Or, I mean, what story would she have if it wasn't for us? Okay. So let's go on into what they finally said, that this person is a shill. We know that Mark Sargent is, I think he's a shill. Personally, I think that's kind of clear now. He's probably the easiest shill to point out. Even the shills know he's a shill. Shout out to Eric Dubay. So Mark Sargent. After this whole final experiment thing, she began to be a co-host on the show with Mark Sargent. This is just as far as we know, this is just a regular working class
Holy shit. Yeah. What?
Regular working class woman came in our clubhouse in 2023, all the way to bringing David Weiss and Mick Toon gets in our room, wins a ticket to Antarctica. Now she's got a show with Mark Sargent. Didn't last long, but she did maybe 10, 20 episodes with him.
Well, do you know what happened?
It's funny because go ahead.
Do you know what happened? She got into a really bad accident.
Tell more.
Yeah, she got into some kind of really bad accident and had to quit. Now, why was she on Mark Sargent in the first place?
That's what he's pointing out. So with that being said, that's interesting, right? Because I've never seen them, of all the things that we've done, like to debunk the final experiment that we've talked about on all the channels. My channel's not really flat earth, but we support it. And all the things that we've done to debunk it, all the Amazon studio, like the bunch of stuff King Nico did, like just all that stuff. I've never seen them react as fervently as they did when you guys said that thing about Lizbeth. When you said that thing about Lizbeth,
right,
they launched a campaign to Flatzoid change the name of his channel as a result of that. Mm-hmm. I'd never seen such a vehement and vicious reaction to saying something so just fucking inconsequential, or just out of the side of your mouth, just not even, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And who is she? You know what I mean? Who is she? Like,
I didn't even know that till you just told me. Like, I tuned out for a while. I was like, I'm not gonna understand this until later. So I didn't even know that happened between Flat.
Oh yeah, they made just an offhanded comment, maybe inappropriate, maybe not, doesn't matter, right? Because it's free speech and it's the internet. Right. Nobody said anything really terrible. Like, they weren't like, they didn't like say things they could say, about a woman, and they're just like, maybe she was the what'd you get, not, you didn't say anything, but what they say, maybe she,
a fucking thing,
right? Maybe she's the I don't even want to say it right now. I don't even want to say it right now because of how they reacted and started, like, just launched all the troll army, I'm talking about the whole battalion.
Yeah,
bring them on,
right? But here's the thing: is that they're like, oh, maybe she was being passed around or whatever amongst the guys. Maybe that's why she was there, because the question was, why the hell was she there? Just like you're bringing up, right?
I have no clue still.
Somebody brought up, so maybe they were all banging her. You know what I mean? Just offhand, stupid guy joke, dumb shit, right? Whatever. But and there was such a vicious reaction from the Globe side, right? That literally they launched a troll battalion at Flatzoid. And the people involved. They even tried. They texted my mother, my stepmom. And they tried to get hold of my stepmom, and then they told her that, like, oh, maybe you should watch this stream that your husband's doing, blah blah blah. Talking about he didn't even see. My dad didn't even say anything. He didn't. He was just on the panel when it happened.
Dude, he goes. He said, I said, I literally didn't say anything in that video clip. And he says, well, that's just it. You didn't say anything. A real man would have said something. I said, what the fuck would you know about being a real man?
There's no proof for or against what was said. Why would you just viciously attack something that was, there's no proof for or against it. You're just like, hey, whatever.
Well, real quick, I wanted to just kind of segue this in. The reason that Mark Sargent had to have a co-host, he already had a co-host, right? It was Patricia Steer. Where did she go? Well, her, Robbie Davidson, and Paul on the Plane, all three of them went back to the Globe, and they all said the exact same thing based on the observation at the final experiment. I have no choice but to accept that the Earth is a globe. I am not being threatened, coerced, or paid off in any way. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? That sounds like a hostage note. And all three of them made the exact same fucking statement. Well, they had been involved in this crypto shit that got investigated and shut down by the SEC or some kind of shit. And it all coincides right at the same time period with this crap, man.
Well, that's hilarious, though. All right, so I'm going to let you continue, Enoch, in just a second.
Oh, yeah, that's why Patricia Steer quit.
You're fine.
And she had been the co-host before. She'd flip-flopped a couple of times anyway. And Karen B was a co-host for a while. And then Patricia Steer came back. And then that happened. And that's why I don't know what prompted him to pick Lisbeth, but now he's got all the people out.
But yeah, so who is she? And the way they reacted, and maybe it's because they had an N, because it was a woman they're capitalizing on.
Oh, and they just are desperate for anything they can do because they can't attack the argument. They want to attack the character. So that's all. That's all it comes down to.
That's what they're going to do.
Let's bring it back to the focal point. So basically, this chick was nobody, right? Ends up coming in your Clubhouse app. You guys teach her some stuff about flat Earth. She's asking you guys for the arguments, right? So she's not a flat earther at this point. If we're honest with, like, she wants to. If we were to take her coming from an altruistic place, right? We would say she's learning and desires to learn, but she's not a flat earth. She's not somebody who's just going to start a channel.
And that was her personality. She would literally say, like, I desire to learn more about this, But she was a flat earther. I want to make that clear. She wasn't like a glober learning.
No. What I'm saying, I'm not saying she's but she just doesn't know. Like, I believe this is true, but I want to know it's true. So tell me this, how I know this is true.
Right.
And then she went from that position to being a co-host to Mark Sargent. And on top of that, which I'm not saying anything about him, I personally have my own opinions. I think Mark Sargent. I think Shill, not so much. I think maybe he's come close to some sensitive topics and they probably gave him a talking to because he's got a huge following. I could see that just from the interviews I watched with him, defending himself. And like, okay, this guy was basically anybody with a family and kids. That's just like Austin Witzer. That's just, listen, you can get the fact that he still comes out and has the following he does and tries to, spread the truth as much as he can within the confines of his notoriety is why I say, he's, not a shill, but he's probably had a talking to. But outside of that, this chick comes up and is a co-host with Mark Sargent, one of the biggest people in the community, right? And she was nobody. So that's where we left off. Pick up, go ahead from there.
I mean, to me, that was the pinnacle of the story. Like, to me, I think Mark Sargent was a shill, and he is a shill, and they use him to make flat earthers look bad. Like he has the Netflix documentary, and everybody points to that. All the Globers point to that. Hey, see this? Look at this. This flat earther's stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
So what does he do? I'm actually genuinely curious because I'm not extremely familiar with his work. I've only watched some of the stuff that he's been on, like trying to defend himself with wasn't he on Flatsoid or I'm pretty sure he came on Flats or somebody's channel not too long ago and was like, who
came on?
Mark Sargent.
Oh yeah.
So he came on and I watched that stuff, right? So I'm like, okay. And I can tell by the way he's talking, that he's been talked to.
Sure.
Yeah, but
like Joe Rogan.
Like Joe Rogan. But is he an outright shill, or does he do what he can within the confines of where he's at and who he is with the level of notoriety and fame? Because if you're too much of a problem at his level, let's be honest, dude, John Wick is real and they'll just kill you. So that's a fact. Or your family, even worse, which is what most family men care about. And I don't know, does he have a family? So what about him actually makes you think that he's? I'm genuinely curious.
Yes,
I'm not.
I got you. So I specifically, I think the prominent flat earthers that kind of began on YouTube and they have the biggest channels and stuff like that, the Eric Dubays. I think that they purposely use these channels to put out the flat earth. I feel like they gave us, I don't think this was an organic thing. I think that they gave us this truth that they use certain vessels to.
You might be right. And you know why? Because and this gets a little bit into the esoteric aspect of things, but there's a shift in frequency that's taking place, which is, 2020. What do we always say? Behind sight's 2020, 2020, right? Is when I think it really started to kick in. I think it started in 2012, but it really kicked in 2020. And I think they knew this was coming. Hold on. I think they knew this was coming and they hijacked it. And so the argument that they gave that they gave us the flat earth in the first place through people like Eric Dubay, because I look at a common thread with Eric Dubay or even Dave Weiss or any of those type of people, they're atheistic and they twist the flat earth in a way that hides God.
That's
the next.
That's what they do. They do that. That's true.
Hey, real quick, look at Whidbey Bear's comment. He said he grew up as children with Mark Sargent. His mom and mine were.
Oh, I did know that actually. Yeah, he did tell me that before. Yeah. So we actually, So Corbett and I had a conversation about this not too long ago, and he grew up with him, and he kind of thinks the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you think the same thing, if anything, which I do think there is something. Maybe Corbett doesn't. He's had a talking to. I don't think he's outright, because why would somebody, if you're outright corrupt, you do what Jaron did. That's Jaron's outright corrupt. That's a fact.
For sure.
Right. So you're trying to cash in on the so because the whole purpose of having a shill or controlled opposition within the flat earth community would be able to lead people back out of it, which is pretty much impossible. That's why anybody who says they're an ex-flat earther is a liar, right? Like there's no way you can. So you're not an ex-flat earther. You're working for the enemy because you can't just all of a sudden believe in the globe again. It's impossible. No, there's no unless you're, or you know what, if you're that stupid to where you would have never been a flat earther in the first place. So it's just every way you look at it, it's impossible that you can be an ex-flat earther. But the main purpose of them trying to put somebody like that in the community would be to lead people back out of it. And so somebody who's actually corrupt, in my opinion, would be somebody who would do what Jaron did. And what they tried to get Whitsitt to do and be like, you know what? Nope, 24 hours. That's why they called it the final experiment. And my dad called it out right away. Many people call it was an experiment. What the fuck is the experiment about this? You're going down there to look at a sun, right? And even if you witness the sun for 24 hours, it's not going to make the earth round or spherical, rather, right? Because we don't know what the dimensions actually are, but we know it's not a sphere because there's no curve. So, so that's where I come from with Mark Sargent.
Okay, no, that's understandable.
But the hiding God, that could be a possibility. Maybe that's the talking to he has. Say, listen, you can show people how the earth is flat as long as you do it in a way that leads them away from the Bible, because that is the ultimate. That's the point of this channel. That's the crux of every fucking conspiracy that's been perpetrated against mankind.
Well, I've met Mark Sargent in Vegas. Yeah, we were sitting in I forget what it was. It was a Ruby Tuesdays or some shit like that was in the hotel. And we were all at a big table sitting around. And I guess there was about maybe 12 or 13 of us. And he seemed like a genuinely nice man. He really did, you know. So regardless, that doesn't mean he might not be playing a game or whatnot, but he does seem, I don't know, the vibe he puts out is almost like childlike trust,
right,
in everybody. You know, he just goes ahead. He's just, I don't know, it might be a sales technique. I don't know, but he does just seem very genuinely nice. I can't see him really saying anything very mean about anybody. He's kind of like a flat earth Mr. Rogers. You know what I mean?
I get, yeah. I guess, you know, my thing is just the whole Netflix documentary, man. Like you said earlier, they're not gonna put stuff in front of us unless they have an agenda behind it. And to me, I mean, that is just, I watched it and it's just bad, man. It just makes flat earthers look bad. Well, they want people to say, okay, let's check out this flat earth thing people are talking about.
But see, the producer could also make that happen, right? The producer, the director, they could be the ones who could take something that was actually a great argument or great evidence of flat earth and cut it and crop it in a way that presents it in a stupid fashion. Which marks are, and I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying there is that possibility. But at the end of the day, like Ryan says here in the chat, he says, I don't trust anybody or any of them, I suppose he meant, right? So, and that's the point. If somebody's out there and they've got a massive following, hundreds of thousands of people, right? And they're able to reach hundreds of thousands of people and they're showing enough evidence to bring somebody to, because if you're not smart enough to realize there is no curve, so there is no sphere. That's what I always take it back to. When people want to start going, you know, I'm not some, you know, super, physics guy, like where I know that I'm actually pretty intermediate at it, but I'm not going to go and have a debate with a physicist on, you know, say, maybe rocket science or something like that, right? But what I will do is I'll have a debate with a physicist on flat earth, because he can try to obfuscate and use all the scientific terminology and all these assumptive theories and everything, right, to try to take me away from this one simple fact. But I'll always bring it back here. Show me the curve. Dude, I'll bet you an entire year's worth of pay that you can't show me a curve. I will, because I know there isn't one. Right? Exactly. So until you can show me a curve, you can demonstrate a curve to the earth, then it cannot be a sphere. Outside of that, there's nothing else I can know. Like Peaceful Penguin said, you know, it's the state of the earth that's more important. And the state of the earth is that it is flat. I mean, it's topographical, it's got elevations, but it's not curving around itself. It's
level. It's level. Flat is a condition. Flat is a condition. Level is an orientation.
So, you know, and if
your wall can be flat.
Well, let me just tie this point up. I'll turn it over to you. But if you've got somebody who's got enough reach to get people to observe and understand that fact right there, then they should be doing the rest of the thinking for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because for me and for my dad, I'm sure for Roger here, I'm going to give you a chance to say hi and everything. And for everybody, what it took was just to point it out. Right. And once somebody pointed it out, I was able to do all of my own thinking from there. They pointed out, you know, the earth doesn't curve. Right. And once you do that, that was what did it for me. I was like, no, it doesn't, does it? So now you're able to do your own thinking, your own research, your own create. And flat earth is simple. Like it's not well, no, it is simple. Right. It is. It's that simple to where there's no curve, but it's been made so convoluted and complex with all the deception and scientific jargon that has been, created, like assumptive values, and then given the air of authority by some letters after your name to where it makes you a fucking priest.
It's that blind allegiance to an unwarranted adoration of academia. This is conditioned into you. This is conditioned into you, man.
Yeah.
And so let me peer review. And it's like, do you realize that some of the most innovative inventions have come from outside of the industry in which the peers would be? For instance, the candle makers and lighting specialists of the world for hundreds of years were using different types of fire and using candles and oils and chandeliers and shit. And this guy came up with a light bulb that wasn't even connected to the candle industry at all. You see, the circular saw blade, it was a Shaker woman. There was a religious order back in the early 1800s, the Shakers. And this woman was running her spinning wheel, and she got to thinking, I wonder if there were teeth on that, like a saw, if you'd be able to cut things with it, because then you'd just be doing continuous cutting. And so now you have a more efficient type of cutting instead of going back and forth and only cutting 50% of the time. You're only cutting when you're going one direction, the other's pulling back to get the energy. And there it was. She wasn't a lumber mill person or anything else like that. She was just thinking in her head while she was spinning yarn. So this thing is where everything's got to come out of some community. That's bullshit. Anybody can come up with anything. Anybody can, you don't have to have letters after your name. All you have to do is just understand logical thinking, and really easy. The scientific method is not that hard to understand. It's really easy. And don't let these guys all the time, what do they want to do? They want to direct you to the sky.
Oh, we might have us one over here in the
every time. That's what they want to do, is go look at the fucking sky. And I'm sorry, man, if you're in a house with a vaulted ceiling, what does that ceiling have to do with the floor you're standing on? Nothing, except that it covers it. That's all.
Yeah, but
well,
no, let me
go ahead.
Yeah, this because time is short for me a little bit here. Just to wrap up what I'm saying, I think there's a lot of shills in the flat earth community. We all know that. And I mean, I think the Bible has a verse that says, let God be true and every man a liar. And that's what this truth did for me, is let me know that my Bible is it's credible, right? And I know that they tried to discredit the Bible with this lie. So I want to say it to everybody watching, and I'm sure you guys already know it, but maybe I'm just reaffirming it. Shout out to Darkness is Following. That's
well, how much, Enoch, how much do you know about
my
Duffy
alarm keeps
himself?
going off. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. How much do you know about Duffy
himself? On, I gotta rejoin, man. Hold on. I'll be right back.
There he is.
Hopefully we get Enoch, but we have us one.
Careful.
All right.
All right, what's going on, man? So what's a conspiracy? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's that right there. That was actually a great demonstration of the entire intellectual capacity of the globe side, for sure.
Oh my God, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So hopefully he rejoins. There he is.
Okay, I'm back. Alarm keeps going off. I got a million alarms on this damn phone. Okay, now I want to say this. Shout out to this channel named Darkness is Fallen. I don't know if you guys ever seen it, but he has a quote, and this is how you discern. To me, this is how you discern the controlled opposition from somebody who's telling the truth. And I think you said something similar in this stream, BTC, earlier. The mark of the controlled opposition is flat earth without Jesus. That's how you know who's who in this whole
I
situation.
agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah. The mark of the controlled opposition is flat earth without Jesus. And that's pretty much where I'll end it, man. Hopefully you guys.
Hey, Enoch, they're pushing, that's the ones that also pushing that outer lands crap too. So they can have this freaking blue beam thing.
But I think, well, let me say one thing. I will say this, right? Like so they have to allow the knowledge to be out there, which is what I think some of the controlled opposition is, but they're told like you can't because you're too big. And of course, this is presumptive supposition, but because you're too big, you can't directly link it to the Bible. If you want to present it, you have to present it this way. We'll pay you to make sure you don't talk about it this way. It's their fault for taking that deal, for sure. But they also wouldn't have the influence that they do if they didn't take that deal, right? So I agree with that. And when you present flat Earth either way, then it takes you back to free will. Okay. When you're indoctrinated with the globe and the flat Earth, you're what's the word I'm looking for? You got ignorance and nescient. When you're nescient to flat Earth, like you don't even know that's a possibility, then you don't have the free will to decide whether or not there's a God necessarily. Not in the same way. But when you do know there's a flat Earth, then now you can either decide to follow Mark Sargent, Eric Dubay,
Mhm.
Or you can come to the logical conclusion that any spiritual person who's led by God would come to you and say, holy shit, the Bible's real, right?
Bible is real. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I think about it. Now, before you go, and I know time's short for you, but Roger came up, and I've been an incredibly rude host. So I want to say hi to Roger. How are you doing? And I also want to give him the opportunity to ask you any questions he might have.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Roger?
Oh, not much. Hi, Ryan. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. Sorry about that.
Not too bad. I've been here for most of what your conversations about. Like I've been on Black Soul stream when everything was said and all the rest of that. Yeah, I got a real good question. How long did you hang out with Elizabeth on the Hangouts?
It was kind of like a regular everyday thing, but it wasn't like every day I'm in that room. It's like most of the time I'm in that room, most of the time talking to her, but sometimes I'm not talking to her. So enough to learn a little bit about her personal life that I know about, just regular person that you talk to on Discord or whatever app you use. That's about as far as it got.
Yeah, I found it kind of odd that she just kind of popped up, and while she got chosen for the golden ticket, it seemed contrived.
Yeah. Look who she shouts out, man. That's all I'm saying. Because I was there from the beginning to the end, and I'm telling you to look who she shouts out, and that should be a red flag. But to me, it was just too many coincidences, and just putting stuff together. It just doesn't make sense, and it's pretty crazy that they can. I mean, just imagine you're just living your everyday life. You're not thinking much about the apps you're using, and you meet somebody who's possibly helping these people that are lying to the whole world.
And
Yep.
that's what it seemed like to me. I get that same notion.
Yeah.
And she was, I would say, presentable as a female. That's what was that got everybody's attention to start with.
Yeah. She had a lot of weird stalkers that would come in the room on Clubhouse like, where's Lisbeth? If she wasn't there, where's Lisbeth? This and that. Just weirdos, man. But yeah, pretty girl and everything. And she, comes off as a genuine person. But just looking at the fruit of stuff, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Wow,
That's
man.
nice.
All right.
I got a question for Ryan, right quick.
Yes.
Duffy, it got me a third-party strike on YouTube. Is there anything I can do about that?
What do you get you a third-party strike for?
Well, I reviewed his last TFE video on my stream, and immediately I got a strike as soon as I went off. Just click, and they got me a 30-day suspension on YouTube, so they won't let me use my regular channel. So.
What's the justification though? What'd you violate?
I don't know. It just says there's a third party.
So the answer to your question is, first of all, you need to know what, because they have to tell you. They can't just remove. People make a living off their YouTube sometimes. So the entire system has to be set up and geared towards understanding that. They have to give you a reason why they did that. And then once you look, you see what it is in their community guidelines that they cite, that they're using as the justification to do that to you. And then you look at your video and see if that actually fits that description. And then you appeal it. You can always appeal it.
Well, I tried the appeal, and they turned it down right away.
Yeah. Well, then we get to there's nothing you can do, because this is, of course, a private company, and they do whatever the hell they want to do.
They want.
Yeah, pretty much. But that was your best shot, is when you appealed it. Prior to appealing it, you should have looked and actually made a legal argument, because then you could sue them if you wanted to. But they know probably you're not at that point right now where you would even bother. So they were just like, we're going to take this guy out real quick. The fact that Duffy did that to you, though, is interesting.
Yeah.
So
Duffy filed that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, what a prick.
Well, I mean, how does he have? Because I remember when I did the final experiment, the satanic experiment video.
Great video. I watched both of them.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. They immediately struck that and removed it. And I immediately appealed it, and they immediately put it back up. So they seem to be in the same way that wouldn't let Enoch, communicate what he wanted to share with us this evening on my comments section in my last video. They kept removing they just kept removing his comment. So they're really protecting us for some reason.
Oh,
you know, I think that YouTube would probably be the most heavily involved in the anti-flat earther movement, since the main node or focal point where people get into this knowledge would be YouTube, because normal people don't generally go. I mean, they go on Rumble now, but not like they do YouTube, and they definitely don't go anywhere else. You know, so this is where you're gonna come to as the entry point for any knowledge of what's actually going on in the Matrix. And so YouTube would be heavily involved in protecting any kind of movement against the New World Order or the system that they're trying to implement.
For sure. So, and if you I'm not sure what year you guys woke up. What year did you guys find out about?
2012.
2012. Oh man, you guys are early. Sheesh. Yeah, but seeing it in 2017, just free ball, every video on YouTube was not necessarily debunking flat earth. It was actually supporting flat earth. And then a year later, it's the opposite of that. And it continues to be the opposite of that to this day. You type flat earth on YouTube and there's the fact check that comes up that says, just like
do a search for hollow earth and see if there's a fact check.
Nope, there's not.
Well, this is how they give themselves away. They protest too much.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing that gives, like Dave Weiss. I know a lot of people think he's a shill. I could not know either way, so I'm not defending him, but I will lend the evidence that I see in his favor towards him not being one, or just having had a talking to, given his notoriety, his background, stuff like that. Would be the fact that he has on his app, which again, I know people go into that, oh, it tracks you and does that way. Okay, well, they track you anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he actually has a compilation, an entire library that will bypass the YouTube. He went through the trouble of creating something. I get it, he gets paid for it, but he still did this, and why would he do it? You know, if he wasn't trying to support the movement. And it's got an entire compilation of videos that you could search for by their direct name and not pull up on YouTube, but they're on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like it's true. You know, so I'm not defending him. He could be a shill. It could be you know, the depths of their deception. I couldn't possibly pretend to be. I know enough of it to know that I don't know the depths of deception.
Same. Like,
you know what I mean?
This is the mother of conspiracies, but it's like, it only, like, what else, man? Like, what else do I not know about this place? It's crazy, but.
Well, it's funny because this is the mother of conspiracies only because the actual mother of conspiracies is hiding God. That's why. That's the only reason why. Yeah. So this is only the mother of conspiracies to people who don't know what we know.
Yes. Yeah, they created a lot of atheists. That's so, like, that's the thing that I feel like they really wanted to do. The main thing is create a lot of atheists. And that's pretty evil. But obviously we know the war isn't against flesh and blood. So when I say they, I'm talking about the one that's controlling them or whatever, and that's Satan. So of course Satan would want to create atheists.
Of course. I've actually identified the specific mechanics and framework of why. And it all goes back to common law, which is not what this stream's about, but that is why. Because, like, so you either believe one of two things. You believe we were all created by God, or indentured to God and to God's laws, and that the only way I can come under another man is through my own consent to come under that man. I don't care how much fake pieces of metal or paper that he has, right? It doesn't matter to me. I have to consent to come under him because we're all equal before the law of God. You can only understand that if you believe in God, or if you know God is real, not believe, but know God is real. You can understand that. And that's what common law ultimately stems from. Or you believe that you evolved from pond scum and you're on a whirling speck of dust in an infinite expanse of nothingness, right? Heading nowhere for no purpose at all, except for just one big random accident. There's no authority higher than government, and that's existed for a long time before you did. So you better just bow your head and fall in line, because this is the way things work. That's the difference.
Yeah, I need to still go down the rabbit hole. The videos that got me was the satanic experiment. That's what popped up on Rumble, and that's what I was like, oh shoot, this guy's putting some stuff together. Let me see if I can give him any context, because I saw it. Yeah.
Are you aware, Enoch? Are you aware of all the allegations and settlements and shit that Duffy had to pay out, and it's
Oh.
still pending?
I think Flat Earth Dave came in there that day in 2024 talking about some stuff like that. But that's a rabbit hole. That's another rabbit hole I got to go down. So
here's a link if you want to
Yeah.
see it.
yeah,
I'll put it over here in the private chat.
I appreciate that. I'm always going down a new rabbit hole.
There
I'm
you go.
always learning
You
something.
should
What
go
you
down the
wanna
law
do
rabbit
is
hole.
hold up. When you pull it up, you'll see a thing that says disclosures. There will be a 7 on it. It's yellow. You click on that box, and that'll open up all of the suits against
I'm
us.
saving that. I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all, man.
I'll put that
Before
in
you
the link.
go, and I know you got to go, but you should go down the law rabbit hole, because this is where this all leads to. I promise you it is. I can explain it 7 ways from Sunday, and I can give absolute evidence for it. And when it changed around the 1800s is when it changed.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing when you have the Great Reset, the orphan trains, all the mass immigration. I'm actually going to do a stream of why that is. This country was never meant to make us free. It was meant to make the oligarchs free from kings and popes. Can you imagine being so wealthy, right, that you could basically buy the world, but you still have to bow to a king who you think is stupid? That was why this country was started. But necessarily, they had to give freedom to everybody and then usurp it using operations of law. The only way they could use the operations of law to usurp it was by making you an atheist. And that is the entire purpose for the globe lie, for every lie, for the germ lie, the globe lie. Every single lie that's been perpetrated has been to separate you from your connection to your creator, so that they can control you through man-made statutory law and,
Wow.
and codification. That's it. There is no other reason. I know this for a fact. That is what the devil is. The beast, the devil is government.
No, definitely. I mean, I can't disagree. I mean, I haven't looked at it in a law perspective, but if you're basically saying the same thing I'm saying in a different way. Basically, they wanted to discredit the creator or discredit the word of the creator, and I guess you're saying, if we knew that we had a God, that we would know we have certain.
Then what would put me in authority over you? If we're both equal, made by the same all divine being, what would make me have authority over you? Now, if you don't know that, you don't understand that there's certain inalienable rights that have been endowed upon you that are outlined in the Bible, and the entire operation of law. The Bible is nothing more than a trust indenture. Well, it's a lot more than that, actually, but it's primarily a trust indenture and a book of law. Even Jesus came and said, I didn't come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. And that's all Jesus taught. If you read the Gospels, what Jesus is teaching people is the law.
Yeah.
In contradistinction to the merchant law that was occupying that area at that time from the Romans. And we're still under Rome. And so that is the whole point. There is no other point. And so hey, God made you, God made me. He both endowed us with these same natural, unalienable rights that you cannot transgress unless I consent to it. So how do I get you to consent to it? If I make you believe that's the only way of living. So they've spent years cultivating and engineering society to make people believe that this is the only way life works. And it hasn't been going on for more than 200 years. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's that new. And they're like, yep, you register your child as soon as they're born. You know what I mean? You get them vaccinated up, right? Because you want them to be healthy. And then the whole thing from there, you enter them into public indoctrination at 5. And that's what everybody does. They've created a customary culture around indoctrinating your child into the state. That's what they've managed to do over the last 200 years, is create a customary culture of indoctrinating your child into the religion of statism, period.
Man.
And that's impossible unless you have a majority atheistic society. And what I mean by that is, I know a lot of people claim to be Christians, they have Christian values, but they still are not in their heart sure that there is a God and there is a preliminary law of nature.
Right.
And there is a preliminary law of nature that's in effect and operation all the time. And actually, that's, part of the globe thing is defying that preliminary law of physics, but even beyond that, societally, right? And so they had to subvert that. in order to get you to believe that, yeah, obviously, like, hey, these people have been here a long time before me. They built this and I'm just a part of it. So I'm going to, yeah, that's it. Right. So
That's
anyway,
how I felt subconsciously.
but that's what it, yeah. And so, yeah, watch some of my other videos. I don't know if you're subscribed to my dad's channel, Roger. Yeah, my bad.
What's the name of it? I'll look at his channel too.
Oh, Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. I'll give you a link. Hold on.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm always going down the new rabbit hole. So all the links, give them to me and I'll sort through them eventually.
These two things, flat earth and the law, are the rabbit hole. Everything else they do, even the blood sacrifice, the things they do with the pizza and stuff, you know what I mean? All that stuff goes back to ancient law. It's what they do. And what I mean by that is they're using the natural law to their benefit, right, in a perverted way. It gets deep, right? So
yeah, so let me ask you this, because I think it was one of your videos, but I've also heard echoes, other people saying that they have to tell us some way, they have to get our consent, right? So
right.
And I know
that's paramount. Yes,
exactly. So do they use all of the media to tell us certain truths, or is it only specific stuff?
Well, even beyond telling you truth, they use all of the media to shape your perception of what should and shouldn't be. And then what you decide is true is the answer to the question of what should and shouldn't be. Does that make sense? So it's a subjective truth that they hijack. Does that make? Do you get what I'm saying by that? So
they hijack the truth.
Right. So I'll give you an example. If they're like, we must mandate these vaccines, right? We have to mandate these vaccines because it's imperative in order to save society, and we have to do this. And all the people, they might be good, well-meaning people. They're like, yeah, this has to happen. But because the media and the education system has indoctrinated them into believing something that isn't true, something that isn't real, and that's germ theory, which is why it's still called germ theory. Right. So these well-meaning, good-intentioned people that are like, yeah, we have to do this to save everybody, even though they're violating the basic laws of autonomy and individual liberty. But, you know, they're coming from a place where like, we have to do this to save everybody. We're in a crisis. They shaped the entire last 5 years was only able to be carried out by a careful engineering of public perception over the course of many, many decades.
Absolutely.
Involving the realities of creation, or rather falsities about the realities of creation, you know? So, you know, when they tell you an asteroid's going to hit, or global warming, there's another one. You know, all these, what they're doing is getting you to do what is right according to something that isn't real. And so that's how they've hijacked it. Subjective truths, basically, is what I would call them. If I was to coin a phrase, I would call them subjective truth.
For sure.
Right. When you need at the objective. So subjective truth would be like, if this is the case, and if this is the case, then what is the right and true thing to do? But what that ignores is this the case? And that's what nobody ever looks at. Like when you're arguing about whether it came from a wet market or a lab, you still believe it's real.
Bat soup.
Right. You still believe it's real. Either way, you still believe it's real.
And you think you're fighting for a cause. You wake up and you realize you're fighting for their cause.
Right. Because either cause you chose, whether it was the wet market or it was the lab, it's their cause. The true cause, the true nature of it, it's not real.
Right.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. Satan puts a battery in your back and he plays on your morals, and you think, yeah.
And it's your desire to control it. I had this lady, I got into a debate on X with this lady. And she's like, you know, talking about how they were like, yeah, cops shouldn't be pulling people over for traffic violations. She's like, well, that's stupid. What if somebody's driving with their headlights off and all that stuff? I said, what gives you the right to tell somebody else how to use their property? Well, they could hurt somebody. I said, that's your imagination. It could, but that hasn't happened. And that's pre-crime. So you want to enforce your imagination on other people by creating preventative measures that control the use of their property. That's tyranny. What are you doing?
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why We don't have the right, or quote unquote, to go to Antarctica and go to certain places that
for your safety and protection, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because they care about you. But you
but-
climb up Everest, then if you die, they just leave you there.
Exactly. It's like I haven't went to Antarctica and died yet, so that's just your assumption. If you let me go, then we can find out what's gonna happen. But yeah, I'm just tying them together. But man, great talk, you guys. I hope I was able to provide some kind of value to somebody, and I appreciate you guys for having me. And yeah, shout
I
out
would
to the
say-
truth.
I would say
Yeah.
in toto, you did provide something very valuable. You highlighted the fact, and you were a part of witnessing. You were part of the organic act of creating the character of Lisbeth, this person who came from nowhere, joined a Clubhouse chat, which my dad and I and Roger, have you ever heard of Clubhouse? Probably not, right? And nobody's ever heard of, right? Joins that chat and gains a little bit of notoriety in some obscure chat, and they get selected for this, to have tens of thousands of dollars spent on them to go on one of the most supposed important expeditions in flat earth history, right? Just randomly. You've highlighted that, and then as a result is rewarded by being given prominent positions on, major podcasts.
Flat Earth,
yeah. So you highlighted a very important aspect of the fakery of that, and it's circumstantial, albeit it is circumstantial, as everything about this is. But I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I said this in the Satanic Experiment video I did, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a lot of fucking smoke around this.
Oh, for sure. So, this is, it's big.
Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And man, if you ever want to pop on the chat in the future, just let me know in the comments, and I'll send you a link. So lately I've been putting up links. So, but
God bless.
Yeah, God bless you too, man. Have a good one.
Nice to meet you, Enoch.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. I think he may have glitched up, so I'll just remove him. But what do you guys think of that? That's interesting, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty much where I was at with that anyways. It's interesting that all those, big names seem to go over there and be talking on that platform all of a sudden, at around that same time. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
I
he
knew
highlighted.
I knew that was a fixed fucking contest to start with. In fact, I've said before that everybody that went was picked before you ever heard of this shit. Before it was ever even announced, they already had picked who was going to go.
I agree with you entirely about that. And Jaron, I think, was part of setting it up. Honestly, I do, because I called him out. He came. I told you when this happened. I showed you the screenshot. Actually, he came under a sock account, because Jaron has sock accounts, on the Satanic Experiment Part 2 stream that I did, and he said something like, "Oh, this is," I can't even remember. He was trying to insult me or whatever. I was like, "Okay, Jaron," I said, I bet you can't wait to cash in on that Globe Troll money." Didn't say a fucking word. Didn't say a fucking word, because that was his point. And he's always, the very first stream he does, because then he comes out, he's like, "Yeah, there's a 24-hour sun and it's a globe. I'm a glober now." It's everybody, okay. Well, everybody leaves, because they're like, "Fuck you. We're not as stupid as you thought we were." And so he loses a shit ton of subscribers. Very first stream he comes out and does after that is go, "What, am I going to have to go get a job now because you guys can't accept the truth? Oh, that's not working out the way that you thought it was going to work out." What you thought? You know what I mean? You thought you're going to be, McToon, or, you're going to get all that money? No,
just
dude,
get everybody to follow along with you. That's what was going to happen. Get the
right.
fuck out.
Right. Yeah. That you're going to be the next Glober superstar, smashing flat earthers, and then just continue to make a living off of us like they do, or like you guys, because I don't even entertain them fucking idiots. But, and you're right when you say that they have no market. They would have no channel. FTFE, McToon, none of them guys would have anything if there wasn't a flat earth community.
If there was, the only way they can survive is through their engagement with us.
That's what I'm saying. If it's by engaging,
if all you have to do, if you boycott them, they're going to go away.
And I think they know that the earth is flat. I think they do.
Oh yeah, you can't not know. After going through it and asking the same fucking question and hearing the same fucking answer over and over and over and over, sooner or later you're going to stop asking that question because you already know the answer and you've already considered it. So
That's
how
what
are you going to keep
exactly.
doing that? So that's their whole thing is through our engagement. And if people stopped fucking engaging with them, they would go away.
You've been proven wrong over and over and over again. You've gotten silenced. You've been speechless by Witsit, by you, by Flatzoid, and they just silenced. You can't answer the question, but you've never considered it. You've never came to the globe side. So you have to be working for somebody. There has to be an organized, concerted effort to undermine the knowledge of the true nature of creation from getting out there. And you know why? So they can keep you trapped on your tax plantation. It's just like at the beginning of the Truman Show when he says, I want to be an explorer. And what does the teacher say?
No, you can't. Every place has already been found.
It's already been found. It's already been found, claimed, zoned out, and leased.
Too late.
Actually. Yeah. It's crazy. Man.
Everything's already been explored.
That's it. That's the whole point. That's the point of it. What do you think, Raj? You got anything to add on this?
Not really, but you guys pretty much covered the gist of it. Yeah. They don't want you to go outside of the perimeter of your cage. Yeah. They want to keep you in here. And they're making money off of you. Services, goods, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Well, the services that they provide are how they get you. We're going to provide you benefits. You're going to have police. You're going to have fire. You're going to have, civil services that we borrow money against you to pay for instead of just collecting taxes through the proper tax system. We're going to borrow money against you to pay for all these benefits that we provide you. And so your will has to align with ours because you're an infant now and you can't take care of yourself. Who's that with you?
That's Johnny Breeden.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
That's my friend Johnny Dollar.
Hey, Johnny.
How you doing, man? I know you.
By the way,
about 25 years.
Yeah, about 25 years.
Jeez. Ongoing relationship.
Godzilla says we're forced to bed, but we're free to dream. All of us human extras, all us herded beings. That's true, man. Listen. I got this thing. I was gonna probably do a stream tomorrow and show it because I wasn't today's stream. But you guys got to see this. Is insane. Like this insight, this book, and I'll send this to you, Dad. This book that Corbett if he's still in the chat that he sent me it clicks everything, all the things, all my study of law, like all the founding of this country and how they immediately subverted it after giving everybody their freedom and all people were co-tenants in sovereignty under common law. They immediately went to work creating corporations, joint stock companies, and usurping everybody's sovereignty through dependency. This explains it. The framers never intended for you to be free at all. At all. There's let's see here. There's there was one part. Okay, the kind of system which the framers generally had in mind was a particular kind of representative system or republic. It was one in which the elites or better people decide what is best for common people. This kind of system, in fact, as we now live, or is in fact the kind we now live under, is often referred to as classic liberalism. It is the aristocratic or paternalistic representative system associated with John Locke. I didn't even think about John Locke in this context, but it's true. Locke is important to note. It is important to note was a wealthy man with investments in the silk trade and slave trade who also received income from loans and mortgages. He invested heavily in the first issue of the stock of the Bank of England, and he also advised the colonial governors of the Carolinas. Now, this was one of the natural law philosophers upon which the founders drew to create our country. And he was actually a wealthy oligarch. And what they wanted to do, like I said earlier in the stream, was when you had these, you've got these titans of industry, these merchants, which is those who speak the language of the sea. They chant, they basically bind you in a spell of black magic, Phoenician occultism, right? To place you under contract. So it's a merchant. Right, the rowmans, who are the rowmans, the men who row, the Phoenicians, the ones from the sea, right? So they wanted to not have to deal with kings and popes, because you're sitting here, you're a merchant of it, you're a titan of industry, you're a merchant who could buy the whole kingdom if you want to, but you can't, because there's a safeguard of a king, and that king can take your head off because he has a monopoly on force. So that was actually a check and balance against corporate oligarchy, right? And so what they wanted to do was remove that check and balance. And the following portion of this paragraph suggests that. And I'll actually get into this in a different stream. So suggesting a government of slave owners run by 40 wealthy land barons. The purpose of Locke's political theory was to create a political system that would support the development of mercantile capitalism, right? Which caput is the head. So per head, capitalism is money on your head, which is what the birth certificate is, in which property owners, not the crown, held power. So I'll read that again. The purpose of Locke's political theory was to create a political system that would support the development of mercantile capitalism, in which the property owners and not the crown held power. Now, I came up with my theory way before I ever read this, and that's why Corbett sent it to me, and I agree with him. Therefore, the concept of the people associated with his theories and the concept of the people used by the framers, as we saw earlier, meant the people who own productive property, corporations, companies, capital, land, factories, and the like, right? As one member of British Parliament made clear, by the people, I don't mean the mob. I mean the middling people of England, the manufacturer, the yeoman, the merchant, the country gentleman. It is also important to note, because it helps explain the views of the framers and our way of politics today, that Locke and his contemporaries also believed that people who labored and who did not own productive property were thought of as human capital, or what do they call us today? Human resources, to be used, but they were not considered intelligent enough to govern themselves. But the funny thing about this is in order to set this system up, they had to give everybody their sovereignty and then usurp it through the operation of law of dependency, basically, which is causes you to come under administration, which you can remove, which is what I teach on this channel. But it's just so fucking devious, and that's why they need you to believe that you're just a random, you evolved from random pond scum and you're on a speck of dust whirling in an infinite expanse of nothingness. So you'd accept this. What do you think about that, Dad? It's interesting, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into that in another stream for sure. But do you guys have anything to add to the whole Lisbeth or the final experiment you guys want to go on to before I shut this down?
No, I mean, shit, I've gone over this. I'm about over that fucking whole thing.
What do you think about the aspect that clearly, like, how was Lisbeth? You know what? I would like Jaron to come out with, or not Jaron, Duffy. Well, and Jaron and the rest of them, right? Why was Lisbeth decided on? How did you decide on Lisbeth? Like, of all the people you could have chosen, like you said, you got a guy who was an expert in solar observations, right? If you're going to observe the sun.
It was, like I said, it was for some reason pre-chosen. I think it was a way to get an edge in on that platform, because they were trying to get an edge in on every platform available. I
think what Enoch presented was actually accurate. It's not so much to get an edge in on that platform, but that would be an unsuspecting platform to build a persona of a plant.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? That would be
it makes it look more random.
And she wouldn't be questioned or scrutinized as much as she would if she was started coming on, say, like the YouTube circuit. If she came on flat,
that backfired.
Yeah, well,
that fucking backfired really bad, because that was the first thing, was everybody was questioning where the fuck did she come from.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. They wanted to give her an air of legitimacy without her being basically cross-examined by, you know what I mean, by serious. Not to say that clubhouse chat of people are not serious, but like by the community, people, the creators that actually have channels, right? So, why was she chosen? I think that if that's a glaring question that needs to be answered by Will Duffy or by the people that set up the final experiment. Like, what made you select Lisbeth, who was, according to a firsthand witness, who was part of that group from the time she joined all the way to the whole thing happened? What she could not, according to him, even formulate a flat Earth argument against the heliocentric model. So why was she chosen?
Right. I agree. Well, yeah. Wow.
I think for that very reason, Ryan, because it should be easier to convince otherwise, and it would make flat Earth seem more silly. That they held her up as a full flat earther, like somebody who's been in here, but she wasn't. So
No, well, that's what he was saying. That's what Enoch was saying. He said that she didn't know anything. She just kind of popped in and started being on that platform, and she was asking for what are good arguments for flat Earth and shit like that. You know, she was just like had just been, you know,
Well,
like
I mean, I guess
trying to
even
feel the water or something. I don't know.
at this point, it's a question for us, right? Why'd they choose her? And is it possible that there was no other corruptible or shill-worthy flat earther? You know, did they have to make one because they only found Jaren and Whitsitt? Maybe I think they control Whitsitt. They probably controlled Whitsitt for a long
Well,
time.
shit. Look at. Did you see Behind the Curve?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. So he was going to do this laser experiment, and they show him out there at nighttime on the edge of the shore, right? And he's got a piece of cardboard, and he's sitting there with a box cutter, crudely cutting a hole in it. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then the laser test doesn't work. I mean, it was, you know, come on. I mean, you're going to do something like that. You're going to build those things before you go. You're going to cut the same size holes. You're going to make them the same size. You're going to go ahead and, you know, I mean, come on. You can't just, that was the dumbest shit I ever saw. And I was like, is this guy being for real? How does he even?
He's evidence. So Enoch is evidence that, well, first read Gordzilla's comment. That's hilarious. Also, so I can take it.
Oh, not nice.
I didn't bring up the village bicycle either. So.
But outside of that, like, he highlighted a very good point, though, that obviously, like, we all overlooked is, well, not all of us overlooked, but like have not taken a look at enough is she came, and we have a firsthand account now recorded for posterity that she didn't know her ass from a hole in the ground when it came to flat Earth when she joined. And within a short time of joining, not only did she have McToon and these other, you know, popular globetards rear their gay, ugly heads, but also, you know, had somebody like Dave Weiss coming out to try to convince her not to do it. Who is she? Why would these, well, you're talking about these, you know, these titans of both genres coming out and battling over this chick. Like, why? Who the fuck is she?
Oh, man. Yeah, and it really was just kind of off the cuff kind of thing. And he said, oh, well, we all know why she was there, you know. And he said, have you ever heard Town Bicycle? That was it. And I didn't even say anything. I had just come on the screen. And the reaction, you know, they just went fucking crazy. And Toon went to the trouble of now finding my wife's email and emailing her a link to that clip he made of it, and trying to tag her on Facebook and all this other shit. And her email's not even anywhere public. So how the fuck did he get that? And, you know, go through that much trouble. And what did he think was going to happen? I was going to get scolded, or my wife was going to divorce me? Shit. My wife says, well, is she? You know, I was like, I don't fucking know if she is or not.
That's why you didn't say anything. There's no proof for
or against. I don't know. She might be a fucking hole. I don't know.
But dost thou protest too much, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
like, and maybe that's not the reason. I'm not accusing.
I don't know, man. That was a pretty over the top fucking
who is she?
For me to not say anything and to make a big deal because I didn't say anything. I mean,
who is she? Yeah, who is this chick, right? Like, and she was organically created, obviously organically created, because there were so many more well-qualified people to go on that trip, right? You're talking, and when we look at the monetary value of what the trip was, right? How much did it cost to go down there?
$32,000 for that trip.
So you're talking about spending $32,000 on this chick because she is going to be an honest scrutifier, an honest examiner of whether or not any kind of fuckery is taking place to disprove or prove the flat Earth. This chick who was asking people in a app that we've never even heard of how to argue flat Earth, right? This chick was chosen for that.
But
right?
the last thing Toon actually told me in a chat was I owe Elizabeth an apology for some reason. And all I did was laugh in the background. That's all I was doing the whole time.
Whatever, let them clip. Hey, let them clip me. Fuck it. But hey, maybe honestly, the evidence is more mounting towards that was the case than wasn't. So, because who the fuck is she? Why would she be invited? I mean, that's kind of, knowing the nature of men, kind of the only reason. So go ahead and clip me and go ahead and try to come at me because I'll make you look like an idiot. That's just, I'm very good at that. So, but I mean, it just makes it look worse. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
I actually cranked up my Rumble channel now, and I got another YouTube channel going. So he hasn't shut me down. Duffy hasn't. The reason he's shut me down, I think, is scrutinizing his last claims that he was making on his last video. He's got another organization that the geographical location of the South Pole is an actual thing, and he could take it to court. And he brought up another group called X.
No, he didn't say that. He said he could take it to court. That's recorded.
Yeah, it's on the stream. Yeah.
Sue him.
Hold on, wait a second. I missed that. With what he said? What?
The South. There's a geographical South Pole, and he has it documented.
That's going
over.
Yeah. No, listen. That's why they took your channel. Sue him. Yeah. You can sue him. Sue him. He said, "I can take this to court."
Wait, he said he
so this is already they've already done this to one of the flat earthers, Zen Garcia. They already did this. Right?
Yeah. They need enough evidence to prove it, the geographic South Pole. So that's what he's saying. He has it. So I was scrutinizing what he showed on his video. He got this group called PEX. They do these inland Antarctic trips you take, and I was investigating the company. And they just do like penguin tours, basically. That's what they do.
We can cultivate a lawsuit against that. I have to think of something creative to give it a cause for suit, but we can. If he said he can take it to court, then that's all we need.
Well, it's in his video. He says it in the video itself. He says this can be proven in court.
We can't discuss this on air, but I have a couple ideas of how we can get cause to sue him. That's interesting. What a dumbass.
They could be sued for fraud, actually.
Well, yeah, but you have to be injured. There has to be an injury. So, so that's, I don't want to get too much into that, but there is a way we could do it. And if you follow my line of thinking, you can probably guess what I'm thinking because he sells a bunch of stuff, doesn't he? He sells stuff on his, yeah, he does, right? So, I mean,
June does.
I think he had about 5 of them.
Right.
I don't know if
there'd be a lot of liability there if somebody bought into bought into his whole lie, right? Bought into it and then experienced some kind of financial injury as a result of it. And the most important thing about that would not be actually getting the financial compensation. It'd be getting him to show that he has nothing, which you would have to show, just like the Zen Garcia case, which is why they bury that. Zen Garcia was like, yeah, dude, you can't prove the curvature of the earth. I'll pay you, what was it, $10,000 if you can. This guy made a computer model and was like, there's a curvature of the earth. And he's like, that's a computer model. You didn't physically objectively prove, as per the stipulations of my offer, that there's curvature, right? And you guys can look up the Zen Garcia case. And so he said, you didn't actually objectively prove that there's curvature. You just created a computer model, according to preset, parameters, and then said there's curvature. And he was like, no, well, this computer model proves it. And he said, okay. And so the guy sued him, said, he's not giving me my money. I proved curvature. And the judge ruled in favor of Zen Garcia because he says the computer model does not meet the requirements for the offer.
Yeah, he needed to prove physical curvature. Yeah,
you had to prove physical curvature. That's it. You can't use a computer model for curvature.
That's about the same as drawing a picture.
But exactly. But they actually tried that, and this guy lit him up. Zen Garcia lit them up. It was like, nope, that's a computer model, man. And they lost that case. And so that's the whole thing is now he was dumb enough to actually say, that's why they took your channel down, Raj. They probably hate the fact that you put this on my channel.
No, I don't doubt it.
I would harp on that. Everybody harp on that. But, oh, you can prove it in court, huh? And there's a way that you can actually make it have to go to court. We just have to create some sort of financial liability well, not create, but find somebody who has experienced financial liability is the proper way to say that, as a result of, or financial injury as a result of his false claims. So
I'm gonna step off, guys. I've had a long day, so I'm gonna call it a night for now. I got to stream later, so
Yeah.
all right.
Good
job on that, Raj. Yeah, I'm going to shut this down anyway. So, do you have anything you want to say to everybody, you guys?
No, I'm good, man.
All right. Well, thank you, Raj, for joining me. Thank you, of course, as always, Dad, for joining me. Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind on YouTube. SSUM369 on Rumble is his plug. And thank you, everyone in the chat. This was it was an interesting discussion. I mean, it definitely was a good point that the guy brought up with Lisbeth. And I think that what Roger just brought up is actually a bombshell in itself also, that everyone in the flat earth community needs to capitalize. And you can prove it in court. Well, okay, let's do that then. Let's try that.
Yeah. So, because he can't.
There's no way. Yeah. How are you going to prove a physical side? Well, we know what
you show a picture of you standing by a barber pole in the snow. Fuck off.
Nice one.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone. You guys have an excellent evening. I will probably stream again on this constitutional con thing this weekend. So have a good one.
All right.